Hi there. Welcome to Unspeakable Leadership, a space that transcends time, borders, and barriers to reclaim our stories as women of color, leading in organizations, communities, and in our own lives. I'm your host, Rohene Bouajram. With a 20-year career trajectory of leadership, an aspiring storyteller, mom of a son and a fur baby, first-generation immigrant, an uninvited guest in Canada, I want to thank you for being on this journey with me. Let us grow together in conversation. Hi, my sister. So, my next episode is one that I'm deeply grateful for because you will be listening to somebody who really opens up and is vulnerable about this theme of crossing the line, which honestly is related to something that keeps coming up each season after season, which makes me think that if it comes up often, it's probably something that many of us are grappling with. And that is the idea of crossing the line being equal to running a race. And what does that mean when we're constantly comparing ourselves to people who are maybe similar to us in age or similar to us in terms of experience? And honestly, as a mentor to many incredible women of color along their journey and during my career, I've seen this come up and up again, where many women are constantly comparing themselves to say, at this age, I should have been doing this. With this many degrees, I should have this. After this many years, I should be at this level of leadership or impact. And we do a huge disservice to ourselves when we compare ourselves against others or against these systemic metrics that honestly are so subjective and also riddled with barriers and obstacles. So you'll hear from both Urmi and I about how do you start to perhaps detach yourself from making those choices internally and sometimes unconsciously in comparing yourselves to others and starting to create a different path where you get to be able to look at yourself differently and compare yourself against yourself, not in a competitive way, but in a complementary way. Now, here's a couple of strategies I want you to keep in mind as you think about what we have a conversation about. The first one is I want you to think about, where did this idea of comparison came from? For many of us, our early childhood are the years in which we deeply appreciate, we love. They filled with, in my case, climbing trees, making beautiful clay. But they also come from a place of having my BFFs, my first BFFs of my cousins, and constantly each and every one of us finding ourselves needing to compete, even though we didn't want to, but it just was structured and created that way. So where did it come up for you that the comparison became the way that you could prove that you were doing well, worthy, perhaps needed, and could receive love and everything else in between? Secondly, when did you not meet that threshold of comparison? And what happened? Were you ridiculed? Were you shamed? For me, it was running a race, a grade 2. I came last. And I can't tell you how, yes, there was embarrassment, there was guilt, because every single time that I would run, I would need come out of breath and I would need time and space to walk, which meant that people had to wait for me to finish this race so that they could get on to another race. And everything was timed. So I completely threw off the timing of this entire tournament. So I know that there were people in the field, in the arena, probably thinking, can this child just give up? And I didn't give up, because one voice was very loud and clear, and that was my mom's voice. My mom screamed from the top of her lungs, You can do it. Keep going. Well done. So reflect on that. Reflect on, yes, the time that you were compared and probably the emotions, the range of emotions. Because sometimes when we revisit those memories, as I've just done, we remember what stood out and what became perhaps the lens through which we remember who we are in those moments and times of comparison. And last but not least, consider, like Urmi, what do you need to let go? I know for me, I needed to let go of, at sometimes, looking at social media and being like, I should be doing more. Or, oh my gosh, they've done this. I should be there. The shoulds, the coulds, the woulds, the ifs. I need, and I have been trying, still trying, to remove those words from my vocabulary, my language, and the way I speak to myself. You see, when we start to put into practice the things we need to truly run at our own pace, the way we define success changes. But we're not going to be able to do that if we don't reflect and revise and redefine. So I hope that you will do that as you listen to this episode and you put into practice what you need to choose a pace that honors you and you. I hope you enjoy this conversation. I am so excited to be in conversation with our guest, Urmi Hussain. Let me tell you a little bit about Urmi. Urmi is a finance professional, speaker, and advocate for women's empowerment. Born and raised in Italy to Bengali parents, she proudly embraces her multicultural identity and uses her platform, her podcast, Stories Beyond Borders, her book, and the many spaces she volunteers and serves to inspire others to lead authentically and also with courage. With a career in finance, a passion for public speaking, and an incredible mission to break barriers for women in leadership, Urmi shares stories and strategies to help others step into their power and create meaningful change. Urmi, thank you so much for being here on season 4 of Unspeakable Leadership. I am so grateful for you being here.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. And I am so excited for our conversation because I know in preparing for this, you and I have had a number of just tangents and questions and topics that we've explored. And so before we delve into that, I would love to hear, what has your leadership journey been?
I would say for me, my leadership journey has been more like a discovering process and also very transformative because when I used to be in university, I used to think that every single person who has a certain title in a certain company or anyone who has a fancy, title is meant to be a leader. But then through time, I realized that titles do not make us leader. It's how we take actions and inspire and influence people that makes us the leader that we're meant to be. And I learned about leadership in my corporate job when I started to work in finance. And I did take a lot of roles that meant for me to take leadership roles, meaning that I had to delegate, I had to be an example to other people. But I also realized that I might not be, of a certain level or I might not be a CEO of a company, but I am still a leader. And I always say it's all about actions that we take in our life and how we help other people.
Thank you for sharing that because I feel like that's a running theme that often comes up in journeys for a lot of women of color, is that this idea that we don't wait for permission based on a title. We wait for it based on a specific purpose and taking action towards that purpose. So I'm curious for you, when you say action, What has that looked like for you in seeing yourself as a leader?
So for me, in terms of actions, it really means a lot of things. I do a lot of volunteering work. And for me, when I think about action, it's about inspiring other people. And how do I inspire other people is by volunteering, but most importantly is by being a mentor. I think being a mentor is a good leadership role, and I mentor a lot of women, and my job as a mentor is to guide and inspire other women. So that has been one way that I've been like taking actions. I'm taking this one big action by being a mentor, but I'm also taking little actions by having conversation with this woman, by guiding them, by providing some tips and advice on how they can be, you know, better people, maybe better leaders, and I hope to inspire through that. And then the other thing that I have done recently, and probably spoke about it, is I am part of an organization called Women in Leadership. So I used to be part of the Victoria chapter, but recently, and this was already officialized, I became the chair of the Montreal chapter. So we do a lot of Thank you.
Congratulations.
So we do have to take a lot of action in that sense, that we do have to organize events. We need to find speakers. We need to book venues. And so that is a big action where we want to bring, women together and we want to inspire them. So that also what it means for me to be, a leader who is in action.
And first of all, congratulations. I have to say that is so exciting and such a fitting role for you, given your mission and also the power of bringing people together and bringing women together to see the possibilities. So that is
Yes,
so exciting.
I love it. Honestly,
So
I love this new role, and I love that we're gonna do things in Montreal, in person events, and bring people in. I feel like we're just gonna make
yeah.
dreams come true.
Yes, 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 yes. I love it. I love it. So, I want us to really, go deeper. Um, Urmi, you know that the theme for this season is a bold one, and that is crossing the line. And I'd love to hear from you. When you hear that concept of crossing the line, what does this mean to you, and when could it have emerged in your life?
So crossing the line, it does mean different things for me. I'm interpreting this in many ways. I think of it as someone who's doing the marathon and has finally reached the line, crossed the line, won. It doesn't matter if you're first or second, as long as you made it, that's all that matters. And it also means, if you cross the line, you are stepping on in people's boundaries. And so I feel like the two things are pretty related to each other, because I always say that as a person, but also as a leader, you don't want to step into people's boundaries. You want to respect them. You want to respect their time, their effort, and so forth. But you also want to help them to achieve their goal, which is also crossing the line. So for me, the two things are really related to each other. They're like interconnected. And but if you want to make it in a positive way, like, I just think it just means you have finally achieved your destination. You matter no matter how hard it was.
Yeah, no, and I appreciate the what I'm hearing from you say is, it can really take on different twists and turns, and there could be many sides and faces to crossing the line. And you brought up this analogy of running, right, and running this race and this marathon. I'd love to hear from you. That what has that meant to you in terms of running at a specific pace? Like, whose pace have you run at in your life?
So here's the thing: when I think about running, I think about what people often say, like you're running because you want to catch up to what other people have been doing. But with time, I realized that at the end of the day, it doesn't matter how fast or how slow you run. It's more important to reach the end goal. And it's okay to have people that are ahead of you, and it's okay to have people that are behind of you. I think it's more important to get started in that marathon, because I do think life is not a competition. It's just you being better a little bit every day to make sure that you reach that end goal. So I always say, like, have your end goal in mind, be focused on that end goal, and it doesn't matter when you reach it. As long as you reach it, you're just gonna go far.
Which is, I mean, it's a powerful reframe, right? Of running at your own pace versus at someone else's pace. I'm curious, was this always something you subscribed to? Like, did you always run at this pace, or was that something you had to unlearn
Yeah,
and
I would
relearn?
say I had to learn, I mean, unlearn and relearn, because no one
Yeah.
teaches you about all of these things. Like, everyone, you see other people and you think, okay, I'm just behind, I have to keep going, I have to, like, catch up on this. But then with time, as I started to, reflect a little bit upon it, I realized that that's not the way to do it. That's not how we achieve success. And I also had to redefine this whole concept of success. Like, at the end, I was like, we think that success is objective, but it's really not. It's more subjective. It's how you define it. And so for me, it was relearning everything and making it my own way, basically.
That, that resonates so much with me, because I think of my own journey, and again, what I've heard from many people around me, former guests on the podcast, and then certainly the network and the communities that I'm connected in with, and there is this moment, I believe, in a leadership journey or in our lives, that as women of color, um, we realize that some of the beliefs or some of the myths or some of the truths that we were led to believe are the only way of living and subscribing to don't fit the way in which we want to be. And so I think of how you're really introducing this really important concept of redefining what do things actually mean to us, right? To ourselves, like regardless of what other people might define as success, what does success mean to us? And part of crossing the line is kind of taking a bit of some bold, and if I have to say, badass kind of moves to be able to say, I'm going to cross the line on to the other side and make a very different life and set up a different reality for myself, even if it means that I might have to leave some things behind. So I'd love to hear, does that resonate for you, and what else would you like to add about that process of redefining this concept of pace and also
So
success?
I definitely think that for women and women of color, success is usually told to us from our parents. They want us to follow a certain career path, educational path, life path, and this is what success means to them. And they tell us that this is what success is. So we, as women, especially women of color, I feel like we just tend to follow what's the norm and what's the convention. But sometimes I also feel like the success comes from making bold decisions, like you mentioned, breaking the cycle and finding your own path. And I know sometimes this could be hard, but I also feel like what's more important is that you follow your intuition, you follow your curiosity, and you follow your heart. And it's a trial and error. Nothing is. It's not supposed to be perfect. It's not
Yes.
supposed to happen overnight. I think it's you having a little bit of taste of different things that suits you the best and fits you the best to find what's meant for you. And that's how I think you can come to this conclusion of success. For me in particular, I had to read a lot of books about self development. I had to watch a lot of TEDx. I tend to observe other people. I observe how other people were doing it. And this is the thing, when you are doing something to please other people, you know that there is something wrong. Like you don't feel it, it's genuine. So that's also a trigger to let you know that this is not working. And so for me, that was like also something that I have done.
Oh, I love that. I love that. It almost is like it's like you've created a rubric for yourself, to say, if something's not working, then here are the signs. Here are the almost these moments of realization that I might be wearing, someone else's version of success, and not my own version of success, and to pay attention to that. And I also appreciate that it sounds like in your own journey you haven't tried to do this on your own, which is really important, right? You've gone and you've sought help, whether it was reading or, visuals or videos or people and community, which I think is also really important. Has there been anything unexpected that has come your way that influenced your journey as you thought about, crossing your own
I
lines?
mean, I think probably my biggest challenge was my own self doubt. I think that was my biggest, really, I don't know, biggest problem. My biggest insecurity probably is my own self doubt. Like, I never thought I was going to be successful my own way. I never, thought that I would be the way that I am, especially because, for instance, I started to do a lot of things in relation to women's empowerment, building an online presence, having a blog, having a YouTube channel, so publishing my book, and also the fact that like I was also getting invited to different podcasts. And then what happened is one day someone came up to me and was like, "Damn, you have such a big presence online." But I never like thought about it. Like it wasn't my intention. And everything just started from my passion, from just doing what I really love. But I was always so worried about this. I was worried that I don't know if I'm good at any of these things. Like I was asking no help to anyone. Usually you have people helping you with editing and they tell you how to do all of these things. For me, it was like a do-it-yourself type of work. So there was always like a doubt in me that I'm like, I don't know if I'm good at this. I don't know if I'm gonna continue with this. But then I also feel like there was a learning process of my own personality where I realized that I'm quite disciplined. I am quite determined too. Like when I start something, I try not to give up on it because I feel like I'm just betraying myself if I'm giving up on something. And so I continue with it no matter what the results are. And definitely the self doubt was there, but I was like, I'm just gonna do it and see where it brings me. And then I think the other challenge was probably like the fear of being judged by people, which is very, very common. You just do something that is very different from other people. But let me tell you this, I think the more you are comfortable with this fear, the better it becomes. You just don't care anymore. You just don't care.
And that is so true, so important, and so crucial. I really want to say thank you for bringing that into the space, and for naming that, because the fear of sometimes, crossing the line, or just stepping forward and saying I want to do something that is in alignment with my dreams, even if we don't know how to do it, even if we even if we don't even know what the actual, outcome is, but there's just something, there's this calling and there's this desire within us to step forward, like you, to step into women's empowerment and to set up the systems and the platforms and the voices and the opportunities. That in itself is powerful. And then comes the wave of fear, which I want to name is sometimes the inner critic that we have within us, right? This presence that we've sometimes has been conditioned, like you said, from parents, from culture, from society, from seeing other women in our circles and realizing, okay, this is as far as I can get, and that I can't dream any bigger. And part of that inner critic that we all have, each and every one of us, is to keep us safe, is to protect us. And so what I'm hearing you also say, Umi, is to develop a different relationship with our inner critic, to look at that relationship with fear in a different way that helps us perhaps bring this, new sense of I can do this with yes, and I can do it in a way that is still somewhat safe, but also is a little unsafe. And then what do I kind of pull out of my toolkit to be able to really step forward and enjoy the process.
If I could add further to this, because you spoke
Please.
about fear. So I
Yeah.
read the book about fear,
Yeah.
and the book is called My Dear Friend or My Friend Fear, something along those lines
On
from
those lines. Yeah.
this author called Mira Patel. And honestly, it's a very short book, but it's very visual. So it just tells you to see fear as your friend, to see it as your ally. So as I was reading that book, my whole, you know, notion about fear has changed, and everything makes sense, because I think sometimes what happens is we're afraid of something and we just don't do it. But what the book was telling you is that if you are afraid of something, just go ahead and do it, because something beautiful is waiting for you on the other side, which is on the other side of the line, I guess we can say, in this case, aligned with your theme. And that's what I kept doing. I just, every time there was that voice, that inner voice, my fear telling me like, okay, I'm scared of this, I'll just go ahead and do it anyway. And then saw the transformation as soon as I embraced fear and I saw it as my friend.
That I'm so happy you did that, and I'm so happy you sharing that, because it's like that, to be able to set up the relationship in a different way and to see fear as a friend, and not to see it as something that is almost sabotaging you. And like this is powerful inner work that I think has the opportunity, like you said, to see the beauty that is available to us on the other side, and to know that what our minds and what our hearts and sometimes our bodies might tell us in terms of if you cross the other side or cross over to the other side, that all you're going to receive is bad stuff, that in itself is untrue. And that's the illusion that many of us are perhaps grappling with. So I want to say thank you, Urmi, for this short and powerful reminder for all of us. I I can't help but think, we have a range of listeners. We have women of color who are already in leadership roles, and they're established, and they are just powerhouses in their sectors and their industries. And for some of them, they might be wondering, like, how do I move on to the next step? And part of that next step might be crossing a line that they had never imagined would be a possibility. Or I'm thinking of the women of color who also listen and watch Unspeakable Leadership, who for the first time are almost quietly voicing a desire to want to be a leader and wondering, where do they go and where do they start? So knowing we have this beautiful range of incredible viewers and listeners on Unspeakable Leadership, what advice would you give to them as they think about crossing the line?
So we spoke a little bit about it at the beginning, and you said that word, which is visualization.
Mhm.
And I'm so big on vision board. Such a big manifestor. I'm telling you, everything I say just happens. I'm a big believer in this. I'm a big believer in this. And this one exercise that I do every single year is I open my Canva and I do like a digital visual board, and I put pictures of what I want to accomplish. I'm telling you, you just, everything that you put there, it happens because your brain is wired to think that way. And visualization has been such a powerful way to make all those things into an actual reality. And what also works is that you don't need to have Canva to do it. You can just take like a board, and you can take like newspapers, and you can just cut things that you want to put on your vision board. So if you see yourself becoming a leader in a certain company, then put that type of picture. If you wanna, I don't know, let's say lose 2 kilos, and you put, like a picture of you running or working out, or if you wanna open a business, then you put that picture. And there are also like organization that do like visual boards workshop where you go there, they explain it to you, and then you do the actual activity. I've done that, and it's fun because you get to connect with other people, you get to see what other people want to accomplish. But visual boards, I'm telling you, they work. You just have to manifest it. It's gonna happen. I'm telling you, it just happens. It
I
happens.
love that. It does, and it does. I agree with you because I can't. I mean, like you, like I can't describe how many times I have both uttered or I have created a vision board about something in particular that I am like, I am going to manifest this. This is going to happen, and it happens. And sometimes it happens, and I forget that this was the thing that I had asked for. And until sometimes, a friend, a colleague, a sister says, "Oh my gosh, remember you were saying that you wanted this?" And I was like, "I did." And so it's almost like this beautiful cycle of once you speak it to in existence and you just surrender and you step back, it happens. So it is exciting.
So one thing that I do, so of course I do have the actual visual board. It's right there. But the other thing that I do is I do the digital one at the beginning of the year. Then I don't see it for the whole year, and I go
Yeah,
back to it at the end of it. And then I look at it and I realize that I've done all of these things, even though I forgot about them. So
I
I'm
love
telling you, it
that.
works. It works.
It works. Well, and this is what we need, right? Spoken and tried and true strategies, which is a big part of who you are, that actually work and move us forward. Omi, it has been such a pleasure having this beautiful conversation with you. I'm so excited where you take your journey and where you take the continued just dedication and mission that you have. And as we close out our time together, how can those who are listening, those who are connecting in, how can they, keep in touch with you or connect in with your work? And is there a call to action that you'd love to leave us with?
So there is a quotation I like to live by, and it says, "The cave you fear to enter, seek holds the treasure you seek." Yeah,
Oh my gosh,
it's
can you say that one more time, please? Again, it's just,
cave you fear to enter, holds the treasure you seek. I love it.
I love it too. Oh,
I love it. It's my favorite quotation. It's my wallpaper on my phone. It's a reminder that when I'm afraid, I just have to look at this and go through this cave, no matter what's inside. So it's a good reminder to be fearless and bold. Yeah. So that would be my call to action. And for anyone who wants to stay in touch, I do have a LinkedIn profile called Urmi Hossain. I have a YouTube channel called Urmi Hossain. And my podcast is available on Spotify and Apple Podcasts, and it's called Stories Beyond Borders. I also have an Instagram page where people can see everything that I do, and it's with the same name.
thank you so much, Urmi. Thank you so much for the incredible work and the mission that you're putting out in this world. And thank you for coming and being part of Unspeakable Leadership, where for this season, we're all making hopefully a collective effort to cross the line towards something bigger, better, and bolder for each of us. Take care. Hi there. I just had to pop in to let you know something. I have a gift for you. Leadership can sometimes feel lonely and complex. So check out the resource page on my website and download your free leadership journal or strategic planning guide. I always welcome feedback, so let me know how they support you. Enjoy.